Emma Chen stepped off the transport shuttle, her small frame dwarfed by the massive spaceport around her. At 14 years old, she was the youngest person ever accepted into the Galactic Defense Academy. The other recruits towered over her, their alien forms creating shadows that seemed to swallow her whole. The Zephyrian beside her had 4 arms and skin that shimmered like metal. The Corvin next to him stood nearly 8 feet tall with tusks that gleamed white against his dark purple skin. Emma clutched her single bag tighter and tried not to look as terrified as she felt. "Look at that tiny thing," someone whispered behind her. "She'll be crushed in the first training exercise." Emma's cheeks burned, but she kept walking. She had worked too hard to get here to let anyone's words stop her now. Her test scores had been perfect across every category. Her physical fitness scores were exceptional for a human, though she knew that meant little compared to species that could bench press hover cars. The Academy's main building stretched up into the purple sky of Nexus, Prime. Its crystalline walls reflected the light of 3 suns, creating rainbow patterns that danced across the ground. Emma had dreamed of this place since she was 8 years old, watching old videos of Academy graduates saving entire star systems. "Attention, new recruits," a voice boomed across the courtyard. Commander Vex, a Thralian with silver scales and eyes like liquid mercury, stood on a raised platform. His species was known for their tactical brilliance and complete lack of emotion. "You are here because you represent the best your species has to offer. Some of you will graduate. Many of you will not." His gaze swept across the crowd and stopped on Emma. She felt like he was looking directly into her soul, measuring every thought and fear she carried. "The Academy exists for one purpose," Commander Vex continued, "to create defenders capable of protecting innocent life across the galaxy. The weak will be eliminated. The strong will be forged into something greater." Emma swallowed hard. Around her, aliens from dozens of species shifted nervously. She noticed that several recruits were already eyeing each other as potential threats or allies. The Corvin from the shuttle was flexing his massive hands. A snake-like Seltari was testing the sharpness of her natural claws against a metal railing. "You will be divided into training squads of 8, Commander Vex announced. "Your squad will become your family, your support system, and your greatest competition. Failure of one means failure of all." A holographic display appeared in the air, showing squad assignments. Emma searched frantically for her name and found it listed under Squad 7. Her heart sank as she saw who she would be working with. The massive Corvin from the shuttle was there, along with the 4-armed Zephyrian. There was also a crystalline whose body looked like living diamond, a void walker whose dark energy seemed to absorb light around him, and 3 others she didn't recognize. "Report to your assigned barracks immediately," Commander Vex ordered. "Training begins at dawn." Emma made her way through the crowd, following the signs toward the residential sector. The hallways were built to accommodate every known species, which meant they felt enormous to her human proportions. She passed a group of older students practicing combat maneuvers in a training room. Their movements were so fast and precise that Emma could barely track them. Barrack 7 was a circular room with 8 sleeping alcoves arranged around a central common area. When Emma arrived, 5 of her squad mates were already there. Standing in what looked like an extremely tense standoff, the Corvin, whose name tag read Crew, was arguing with the Void Walker in a language Emma didn't understand. The crystalline being was trying to mediate, its body pulsing with different colored lights that Emma assumed represented emotions. "Excuse me," Emma said softly. Everyone turned to look at her and the room fell silent. Crew looked down at her with obvious disgust. "This is what we get as our 8th member? A human child?" "I'm not a child," Emma replied, though her voice came out smaller than she intended. "I'm 14. "Exactly," said the Void Walker in accented galactic standard. "A child." The Zephyrian stepped forward, all 4 arms crossed. "I am Zixtal. I have heard that humans are persistent. Perhaps size does not matter as much as determination." "Size always matters in combat," Crew growled. "She will get us all killed when we face real challenges." Emma felt heat rising in her cheeks. "I scored in the top 5% on every entrance exam. I wouldn't be here if I couldn't handle the training." Crew laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Tests are not real combat, little human. When a Drexy war beast is trying to tear your head off, your test scores will not save you." The crystalline being chimed softly, its voice like wind through crystal caves. Perhaps we should reserve judgment until we see what each of us can do. I am Harmony of Seven Lights. I believe in giving everyone a chance to prove themselves. Waste of time, muttered the Void Walker. I am Nyx. I came here to train with warriors, not babysit academy children. Before Emma could respond, the door chimed and their final 2 squad mates entered. One was a reptilian saurian with intelligent amber eyes, the other a insectoid hive queen whose multiple appendages moved with unsettling coordination. I am Seth, the saurian announced. I smell fear in this room. Good. Fear keeps you alive. The hive queen clicked and buzzed before speaking in rapid, precise words. This unit is designated Queen Defender 9th Clutch. This unit observes significant size disparity among squad members. This may create tactical challenges. Emma looked around at her squad mates. Each one of them could probably kill her with their bare hands, claws, or appendages. Krug was right about one thing. She was completely outmatched physically. But she had something else that had gotten her this far. Look, Emma said, stepping into the center of the room. I know I'm smaller than all of you. I know I'm younger. But I'm here for the same reason you are. I want to protect people. I want to make a difference. Maybe I can't bench press a hover car, but I can outthink most opponents. I never give up, and I learn faster than anyone you've ever met. Crew snorted. Pretty speech. We will see how pretty it sounds when you are bleeding in the training yard. Then let's find out, Emma said, meeting his gaze without flinching. Tomorrow at dawn, just like the commander said. But until then, we're squad mates. That means we work together, or we all fail together. Seth's amber eyes glittered with what might have been approval. The small human has spine. Interesting. As the squad settled in for the night, Emma lay in her alcove staring at the ceiling. Through the transparent walls, she could see the stars of a dozen different systems. Somewhere out there, people were counting on her to become strong enough to protect them. She had no idea that in less than 24 hours, she would meet someone who would change the course of her life forever. Dawn on Nexus Prime came with the sound of 3 different alarm systems designed for species with varying hearing ranges. Emma was already awake, having spent most of the night reviewing Academy protocols on her data pad. She had memorized the layout of the training facilities, the basic combat forms for 12 different species, and the emergency procedures for 17 types of disasters. Her squad mates were slower to wake. Crew emerged from his alcove like an angry mountain, grumbling in his native language. Nyx simply materialized from the shadows where his alcove should have been, which made Emma jump. She was still getting used to the fact that Void Walkers didn't always follow normal physics. First day nerves? Asked Harmony, her crystalline form catching the morning light and throwing rainbow patterns across the walls. Always, Emma admitted. But good nerves, the kind that keep you sharp. Seth flicked his tongue out, tasting the air. The small human's fear scent has changed. Yesterday it was terror. Today it is anticipation. Curious. They made their way to Training Complex Alpha, where Commander Vex waited with several other instructors. Emma recognized a few species from her studies. A Titan-class Goliath whose presence made the ground vibrate slightly with each step. A Scion whose mental abilities were said to be powerful enough to move starships, and others whose reputations preceded them. Today you begin your real education, Commander Vex announced. You will face the Crucible course, a series of challenges designed to test every aspect of your capabilities. Many of you will fail, some of you will be injured, a few of you may not survive. Emma felt her stomach drop. This was the Academy's infamous first test, the one that eliminated nearly half of all recruits before they completed their first week. Squads will navigate the course together, the commander continued. Your time, teamwork, and individual performance will all be evaluated. Squad 7, you will go first. Crew cursed under his breath. Going first meant they had no opportunity to observe other squads and learn from their mistakes. It also meant everyone would be watching their performance, including potential failures. The Crucible course stretched out before them like a nightmare obstacle course designed by sadistic engineers. Emma could see sections that would require incredible strength, others that demanded speed and agility, and still others that seemed to test mental capabilities. One section appeared to be nothing but a field of what looked like harmless grass, but Emma's readings showed it was crawling with microorganisms designed to test immune system responses. Your goal is simple, announced Instructor Thane, the Goliath whose voice made Emma's bones vibrate. Reach the end of the course. Rescue the simulation victims along the way. Keep all squad members alive. You have 2 hours. A timer appeared in the air above them, already counting down from 120 minutes. Crew immediately took charge, pointing his massive finger at various obstacles. Zixtal and I will handle the strength challenges. Nix can phase through the energy barriers. The human... He looked at Emma with obvious doubt. Stay out of the way and try not to slow us down. Wait, Emma said, pulling out her datapad. I've been studying the course layout. If we go in order, we'll waste time backtracking. But if we split into 2 teams and work parallel paths, we can shave at least 20 minutes off our time. The child thinks she can lead. Crew laughed. Ridiculous. But Seth was studying Emma's analysis, his amber eyes moving rapidly across the display. The human strategy has merit. The course is designed to be navigated as a group, but the rules do not prohibit tactical separation. Queen Defender 9th. Clutch clicked rapidly. This unit concurs. Efficiency algorithms support the small human's proposal. Before Crew could object further, they reached the first obstacle, a massive wall that stretched up 50 feet with handholds designed for various alien physiologies. Most species could climb it with their natural abilities, but the handholds built for humans were spaced much farther apart than Emma could comfortably reach. See? Crew said triumphantly. She cannot even pass the first test. Emma studied the wall for a moment, then looked at her squadmates. Zixtal, if I climb onto your shoulders, can you give me a boost to the human handholds? The 4-armed Zephyrian considered this. It is possible, but dangerous. If you fall, I won't fall, Emma said with more confidence than she felt. I've been rock climbing since I was 6. I just need to get past the first section. What followed was a carefully choreographed maneuver that had Emma climbing Zixtal like a living ladder while he positioned his 4 arms to give her the best possible leverage. When she finally grabbed the first human handhold, she was already 15 feet up the wall and moving fast. Her years of training on Earth's gravity wells had prepared her for this. While her squadmates used brute strength to power up the wall, Emma used technique and efficiency. She reached the top first, surprising everyone, including herself. Impossible, Crew muttered as he hauled himself over the edge with his massive arms. Not impossible, Emma panted, grinning despite her exhaustion. Just different. The next several obstacles played out similarly. Where her squadmates expected Emma to fail, she found ways to adapt. When they reached a section requiring delicate electronic work under pressure, her small fingers could access control panels that larger hands couldn't reach. When they found a maze designed to test problem-solving under stress, her analytical mind found patterns that others missed. But it was at the 40th minute mark that everything changed. They had just rescued their second simulation victim, a holographic, Tralian child trapped under debris, when alarms began blaring across the academy. Not training alarms. Real alarms. Commander Vex's voice echoed through the complex. All squads halt training immediately. This is not a drill. Unknown ships have entered Nexus Prime space. All students report to emergency stations. Through the transparent walls of the training complex, Emma could see ships in the sky. Sleek black vessels that moved with predatory grace. She recognized the design from her xenology studies. Drexy Raiders, one of the most dangerous pirate factions in the galaxy. How is this possible? Harmony's crystalline form was pulsing with rapid, fearful colors. Nexus Prime has the strongest defenses in known space. Seth was tasting the air again, his amber eyes wide.
Death scent, strong, close. They are not just raiding.
They are hunting. That was when the explosion started. The first blast shook the training complex so violently that several pieces of equipment crashed to the ground. Emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in red. Through the walls, Emma could see one of the Academy's defensive towers collapsing in a shower of sparks and debris. We need to get to the emergency stations, Queen Defender 9th Clutch announced, her multiple appendages already moving toward the nearest exit. But before they could move, a section of the wall exploded inward. Through the gap came something that made Emma's blood freeze. A Drexy shock trooper, its biomechanical armor fused directly to its body, its multiple weapon arms already targeting the closest threat, which happened to be Emma. Time seemed to slow as she stared down the barrel of an energy weapon designed to turn organic matter into component atoms. Her training kicked in, but she knew it wasn't enough. She was too slow, too small, too human to dodge something moving at the speed of light. The weapon fired. Emma closed her eyes and waited to die. Instead, she heard the sound of energy striking something that definitely wasn't her. When she opened her eyes, someone was standing between her and the Drexy trooper. Someone wearing academy armor, but not the standard student variety. This armor was black as the space between stars, with technology that seemed to bend light around its edges. The figure turned slightly, and Emma caught a glimpse of a face that was definitely human, but with eyes that held depths she had never seen before. Female, maybe mid-20s, with scars that suggested battles most people couldn't imagine surviving. "Stay behind me," the stranger said in a voice that carried absolute authority, despite being barely above a whisper. "And whatever happens, do not run." The Drexy trooper snarled something in its alien language and fired again. This time Emma saw what happened. The energy beam simply ceased to exist when it hit the stranger's armor, as if the laws of physics had temporarily decided to take a break. What followed was the most one-sided fight Emma had ever witnessed. The stranger moved like death itself had learned to dance. Emma had seen combat footage from the Academy archives, had watched veteran soldiers fight with precision and skill that seemed superhuman. This was something else entirely. The mysterious woman didn't just fight the Drexy shock trooper, she dismantled it with surgical efficiency that made Emma's breath catch in her throat. The Drexy fired its plasma cannon. The woman's hand moved in a blur, catching the energy bolt and somehow redirecting it back at the attacker. The trooper dodged, its biomechanical legs pistons carrying it across the destroyed wall with inhuman speed. It didn't matter. The woman was already there, waiting. Her fist connected with the trooper's chest armor, and Emma heard the distinct sound of military-grade protection crumpling like paper. The Drexy stumbled backward, green fluid leaking from gaps in its armor that definitely hadn't been there seconds before. "Impossible," Crew whispered behind Emma. "That armor is rated to withstand direct hits from ship-mounted weapons." The Drexy raised all four of its weapon arms, firing in a pattern designed to make dodging impossible. The woman didn't dodge. She walked through the barrage like it was a light rain, energy beams either missing her by impossible margins or simply failing to function when they came too close. When she reached the trooper, she placed one hand on its weapon arms and squeezed gently. Emma watched in fascination as technology that could level buildings simply stopped working. The metal didn't break or melt, it just ceased to function, as if the very concept of weapons had been temporarily removed from reality. The Drexy trooper tried to retreat, but the woman caught it by what passed for a throat on its species. She lifted it off the ground with one hand, brought it close to her face, and said something in the Drexy language that made the creature's eyes widen with what Emma could only describe as absolute terror. Then she set it down, pointed toward the hole in the wall and said, "Run!" The shock trooper didn't hesitate. It fled through the gap like its life depended on it, which Emma suspected it probably did. The woman turned back to Emma and her squad mates, and for the first time, Emma got a clear look at her face. She was definitely human, probably in her 20s with dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold starlight. But there was something else there, something that made Emma feel like she was looking at a predator that had evolved beyond anything the galaxy had ever produced. "Are you injured?" the woman asked, her voice returning to that barely above whisper tone that somehow carried perfect clarity. Emma realized she was staring and forced herself to speak. "No, I'm fine. We're all fine. Who are you?" The woman smiled and Emma felt her heart skip a beat. It wasn't a cruel smile or a mocking one. It was warm and genuine and completely at odds with what Emma had just witnessed. "I'm Alex Morgan," she said. "Senior Academy graduate, class of 2387. I'm here to make sure you all get through this alive." Harmony's crystalline form was cycling through colors Emma had never seen before. Senior graduate? But the Academy records show no class of 2387. That was 3 years ago, and no humans graduated that year. Alex's smile widened slightly. "The Academy keeps a lot of secrets. I'm one of them." More explosions echoed through the complex, closer this time. Through the gap in the wall, Emma could see more Drexy ships landing in the Academy courtyard, dozens of them disgorging troops that moved with the kind of coordination that suggested this wasn't a random raid. "This is a planned assault," Seth observed, his amber eyes tracking the movement of enemy forces. "But why target an academy?" Students are not strategic assets. These students are, Alex said grimly. The Drexy aren't here for random recruits. They're here for specific individuals whose potential represents a threat to their expansion plans. She looked directly at Emma as she said this, and Emma felt a chill run down her spine. Me? Emma whispered. But I'm just a student. I haven't even finished my first day. You're Emma Chen, Alex replied. Daughter of Dr. Sarah Chen, the xenobiologist who discovered the Drexy's weakness to certain human pheromone combinations. Granddaughter of General Marcus Chen, who developed the tactical frameworks that stopped the Drexy advance in the Outer Rim. And you, personally, scored higher on the Academy's strategic analysis tests than anyone in recorded history. Emma's mouth fell open. She had known her family history, but she hadn't realized that the Academy tracked genealogy so closely, or that her test scores had been that unusual. The Drexy have long memories, Alex continued. They eliminate threats before they can fully develop. That's why I'm here. Crew stepped forward, his massive frame still dwarfing both humans. You speak of protection, but you are just one person. There are dozens of Drexy forces converging on this position. Alex turned to look at him, and Emma saw something flicker across the Corvin's face that she had never thought she would see. Fear. You're right, Alex said calmly. There are dozens of them. That does seem unfair. For us, Nix added, his shadowy form rippling with what Emma was learning to recognize as Voidwalker anxiety. No, Alex said, and her voice carried a certainty that made Emma's skin prickle. For them, before anyone could ask what that meant, the Academy's emergency communication system crackled to life with Commander Vex's voice. All students and faculty, this is a Code Black evacuation order. Proceed immediately to emergency shelters. Do not attempt to engage hostile forces. This is not a training exercise. I repeat, this is not a training exercise. Alex listened to the announcement, then shook her head. The emergency shelters won't hold against Drexy siege equipment. There'll be death traps within an hour. Then what do we do? Emma asked. Alex was quiet for a moment, and Emma could see her weighing options with the same kind of analytical precision that Emma used when solving complex problems. The similarity made Emma wonder just what kind of training had produced Alex Morgan. We fight, Alex finally said, but not here, and not how they expect us to fight. She moved to the damaged wall and looked out at the Academy grounds. Emma followed her gaze and saw Drexy forces methodically securing strategic positions. They were professionals, which somehow made the situation more terrifying than if they had been wild raiders. There's an old maintenance tunnel system under the Academy, Alex said, built during the original construction to allow for emergency evacuation of sensitive materials. Most people have forgotten it exists, but it connects to every major building on campus. Queen Defender 9th Clutch clicked rapidly. This unit queries, how does underground movement constitute fighting? Alex turned back to the group, and Emma saw that predator smile return. Because we're not running away from them. We're going to hit every strategic target they think they've secured, rescue every student they think they've trapped, and make them regret ever learning that humans exist. With what? Harmony asked, her crystalline form still cycling through worried colors. We're students with training weapons. You're students, Alex corrected. I'm something else entirely. She reached into what Emma had thought was a simple utility pack and began pulling out equipment that definitely wasn't standard Academy issue. Weapons that hummed with energy signatures Emma couldn't identify. Devices that seemed to bend space around themselves. Technology that looked like it belonged on a warship. Not in a person's backpack. The Academy has been developing something called the Apex Warrior Program, Alex explained as she distributed equipment that Emma was pretty sure violated several interstellar treaties. Humans who are trained from childhood to exceed every limitation our species supposedly has. Soldiers who can function as one-person armies when necessary. Emma stared at the weapon Alex handed her, something that looked like a standard energy pistol but felt like it was humming, with barely contained starfire. How many of you are there? Emma asked. Alex paused in her equipment distribution, and for a moment Emma saw something that looked like loneliness flicker across her features. Right now, just me. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of Drexy forces beginning to breach the Academy's inner defenses. They were running out of time. All right, Alex said, shouldering a weapon that Emma was pretty sure could level a small building. Everyone stays close to me. Follow my lead exactly. Do not hesitate. Do not question orders and do not try to be heroes. Your job is to learn how to survive. My job is to teach the Drexy why attacking humans was the worst mistake they ever made. As they moved toward the maintenance access Alex had mentioned, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just taken a turn that would change everything she thought she knew about herself, about humans, and about what they were capable of becoming. Behind them, the sounds of battle grew closer. Ahead of them, Alex Morgan moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had fought wars that history would never record. The maintenance tunnels beneath the academy were like a hidden city that Emma never knew existed. Corridors wide enough for maintenance vehicles stretched in every direction, marked with symbols and languages that predated the current Galactic Council. Emergency lighting cast everything in a pale blue glow that made shadows dance along the curved walls. Alex moved through the tunnels like she had memorized every turn and junction, which Emma suspected she probably had. Her squadmates followed in single file, still trying to process what they had witnessed in the training complex. "How long have you been watching me?" Emma asked, keeping her voice low even though Alex had assured them the tunnels were shielded from most scanning technology. "Since you submitted your academy application," Alex replied without turning around. "The Apex Warrior program monitors all potential candidates with unusual capabilities. You scored in categories that shouldn't be possible for someone your age." "What categories?" Krug demanded. Despite his earlier dismissal of Emma's abilities, he was now looking at her with something that might have been respect. Alex paused at an intersection, checking a device that projected a three-dimensional map of the academy above them. Red dots showed Drexy positions, while blue dots indicated surviving academy personnel. "Strategic thinking that exceeds most military commanders with decades of experience," Alex said. "Problem-solving capabilities that border on precognitive, and something the tests call adaptive resilience, the ability to find solutions under pressure that other people can't see." Emma felt heat rising in her cheeks. "I just think differently than most people." "Exactly," Alex said, and there was something in her tone that made Emma look at her more closely. "That's what makes you dangerous. Not your physical strength or your reflexes, your mind." They reached a maintenance station where Alex began accessing academy systems through terminals that Emma was pretty sure students weren't supposed to know about. Lines of code scrolled across multiple screens, showing security camera feeds from across the campus. "The Drexy have secured the main administrative building and the primary dormitories," Alex reported. "But they're having trouble with the advanced training facilities. Too many automated defenses." On one screen, Emma watched a group of older academy students fighting a running battle through the Advanced Combat Training Center. They were good, much better than Emma and her squadmates. But she could see they were being systematically driven back by superior numbers and equipment. "We have to help them," Emma said immediately. "We will," Alex replied, "but not the way you're thinking." She brought up a different screen showing the Academy's power grid. Emma noticed that certain sections were highlighted in yellow while others showed red warning indicators. "The Drexy think they understand human technology," Alex explained. "They've studied our ships, our weapons, our defensive systems. But there's one thing they've never encountered because it's never been deployed in open warfare." "What?" Seth asked, his amber eyes reflecting the screen displays. Alex smiled that predator smile again. "Humans who have been specifically trained to exceed every limitation our species is supposed to have." She began entering commands at a speed that made Emma's eyes hurt to follow. On the screens above them, academy systems that had been offline began coming back online. Not just the basic ones, advanced defensive grids, automated weapon systems, and things that Emma was pretty sure weren't mentioned in any of the Academy's public documentation. The Academy has been developing these systems for 20 years. Alex continued as she worked. "Ever since the first Apex Warrior program candidate proved that human potential was far more flexible than anyone had believed. They've been waiting for the right moment to test them in actual combat." "You're turning the entire Academy into a weapon," Harmony observed, her crystalline form pulsing with what Emma was learning to recognize as amazement. "I'm leveling the playing field," Alex corrected. "The Drexy brought overwhelming force because they expected to face normal Academy defenses and standard student resistance. They didn't plan for a response that operates outside conventional tactical parameters." Emma watched the displays change as Alex's commands took effect. The Drexy forces that had been advancing methodically through secured areas suddenly found themselves facing resistance they couldn't account for. Automated systems that should have been offline were targeting them with precision that suggested active guidance. Environmental controls were being weaponized, creating atmospheric conditions that favored the defenders. "This is incredible," Queen Defender 9th Clutch clicked. Human adaptation capabilities exceed previous calculations by significant margins. "That's just the beginning," Alex said. She finished at the terminal and began moving deeper into the tunnel system. "Now we get to the real work." They emerged from a service hatch into what Emma recognized as the Academy's main library. The vast halls filled with knowledge from across the galaxy were eerily quiet, emergency lighting casting long shadows between the towering data archives. Alex led them through rows of holographic displays toward the restricted research section. Emma had always wondered what was kept behind the energy barriers that required special authorization to access. "The Academy doesn't just train defenders," Alex explained as she bypassed security systems with casual efficiency that suggested she had authorization Emma definitely didn't have. "It also conducts research into advanced warfare techniques, xenobiology, and the theoretical limits of various species' capabilities." She stopped in front of an archive that was labeled only with a series of numbers and letters that meant nothing to Emma. When Alex activated it, holographic displays showed technical readouts and biological scans that made Emma's head spin. "Project Apex Warrior began as a simple question," Alex said. "Every species in the galaxy has natural limitations: Corvin strength, Zephyrian speed, crystalline computational abilities, Voidwalker phase capabilities. But what if those limitations could be systematically exceeded through training, technology, and techniques that pushed biological systems beyond their normal parameters?" Emma stared at the displays showing human test subjects performing feats that should have been impossible. Running faster than most species' vehicles, lifting objects that should have required mechanical assistance, processing information at speeds that rivaled artificial intelligence systems. "This is why the Drexy are here," Alex continued. "Intelligence reports suggest they've learned about the program. They know that humans with these capabilities could shift the balance of power across the galaxy. How many others are there like you?" Nix asked, his shadowy form rippling with what Emma was beginning to recognize as curiosity. Alex was quiet for a moment, and Emma saw that loneliness flicker across her features again. "The program has had 12 graduates over the past 5 years," Alex finally said. "I'm the only one still active in this sector of space. The others are either on classified assignments or," she paused, "no longer available." Emma felt a chill that had nothing to do with the library's climate control. "You mean they're dead?" "I mean they're no longer available," Alex repeated. But her tone suggested Emma's interpretation was probably accurate. Alarms began sounding through the library, different from the General Academy alert system. These were short, sharp bursts that Emma's pattern recognition immediately identified as a proximity warning. Alex was already moving, pulling what looked like a standard Academy scanner from her equipment pack. The readings it displayed definitely weren't standard. Energy signatures that showed multiple life forms approaching their position with coordinated precision. "Drexy hunting party," Alex said grimly. 8 troopers, full combat gear following our trail through the tunnel system. How is that possible?" Krug demanded. "You said the tunnels were shielded." "From passive scans," Alex corrected. "Active hunting involves different techniques. They're tracking biochemical signatures and electromagnetic residue from our equipment." Emma looked around the library, trying to see it from a tactical perspective the way Alex would. Multiple levels connected by floating platforms. Hundreds of places to hide among the data archives. Environmental controls that could be modified to create advantages. "We could run," Emma suggested. "Find another way to reach the students who need help." "Running won't work anymore," Alex said, checking her weapons with the kind of practiced efficiency that suggested she had done this many times before. "They know we're here, they know our capabilities, and they've called for reinforcements. If we're going to do this, we do it now." "Do what?" Harmony asked, though her crystalline form was already starting to cycle through colors that Emma was learning to associate with preparation for combat. Alex looked at each of them, and Emma saw her making calculations that went beyond simple tactical analysis. She was measuring their capabilities, their courage, and their potential to survive what was about to happen. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten a human under the protection of an apex warrior, Alex said, and you're going to learn what you're actually capable of when everything depends on. The Drexy hunting party entered the library like a pack of mechanical predators, their biomechanical armor gleaming under the emergency lighting. Emma watched from behind a data archive as they spread out in a formation that spoke of extensive training and combat experience. These weren't the raiders she had expected. They were elite soldiers. Alex had positioned Squad 7 throughout the library's multiple levels, each member hidden among the towering knowledge banks with weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Emma clutched her modified pistol, trying to remember everything Alex had taught her about advanced targeting systems during their brief crash course. Remember? Alex's voice whispered through their improvised communication network. They're expecting standard academy resistance. Students hiding and hoping for rescue. They're not prepared for coordinated counterattack. Emma could see the lead Drexy trooper, its multiple sensor arrays sweeping the area in patterns designed to detect hidden opponents. Its biomechanical body moved with fluid grace that somehow made it more terrifying than simple brute force would have been. First lesson in asymmetric warfare, Alex continued, her voice so quiet it was barely audible even through their enhanced communication system. Superior numbers mean nothing if the enemy can't effectively deploy them. What happened next redefined Emma's understanding of what combat could look like. Alex didn't attack the Drexy forces directly. Instead, she activated something in her equipment pack that sent signals to the library's environmental systems. The atmospheric processors began creating pockets of specialized gas mixtures, nothing harmful to the species represented in Squad 7, but apparently irritating to Drexy respiratory systems. The hunting party's formation wavered as several troopers began having difficulty breathing. Their sensors, designed to detect hidden enemies, were being overwhelmed by the chemical interference Alex had introduced to the air supply. Now, Alex whispered. Emma's first shot was perfect. The modified weapon Alex had given her fired something that wasn't quite energy and wasn't quite projectile, but punched through military-grade armor like it was decorative fabric. The Drexy trooper she had targeted went down immediately, green fluid leaking from what had been its primary weapons cluster. Around the library, Emma's squad mates opened fire with precision that surprised even them. Crew's massive strength let him wield a heavy weapon that should have required a mounting system. Zixtal's forearms gave him targeting capabilities that allowed him to engage multiple enemies simultaneously. Nyx phased in and out of solid matter, attacking from angles that conventional tactics couldn't account for. But it was Harmony who provided the biggest surprise. Her crystalline body began resonating at frequencies that interfered with Drexy cybernetic systems. Emma watched in fascination as enemy troopers suddenly found their integrated weapons failing, their enhanced sensory equipment going offline, their coordination falling apart as their technological advantages simply stopped working. The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. When the shooting stopped, 8 Drexy troopers were down, and Squad 7 hadn't taken a single casualty. Emma stared at the aftermath, trying to process what had just happened. How? She whispered. Preparation, coordination, and utilizing capabilities your opponents don't expect, Alex replied, emerging from cover with her weapons still ready. The Drexy planned for a fight against Academy students using conventional tactics. They didn't plan for students being guided by someone trained to exceed conventional limitations. Emma looked at her weapon, then at the fallen Drexy trooper she had shot. Yesterday, she couldn't have imagined taking a life even in self-defense. Today, she felt no guilt about protecting her squad mates and innocent students throughout the academy. I don't feel bad about it, she said, surprised by her own reaction. You shouldn't, Alex replied. They came here to kill children for the crime of having potential. What you feel is clarity. It's one of the signs that you're adapting to reality instead of living in theories about what combat should feel like. Seth approached the group, his amber eyes bright with what Emma was learning to recognize as satisfaction. The small human fights with precision. No wasted motion, no hesitation, impressive. Emma has what we call combat adaptability, Alex explained. The ability to shift from theoretical knowledge to practical application without the psychological barriers that stop most people. It's one of the traits we look for in Apex Warrior candidates. Emma felt something click into place in her mind. That's what this has all been about. Not just protecting me from the Drexy, testing me, Alex nodded. The Academy entrance exams can measure intelligence, physical capability, and psychological resilience, but they can't measure how someone will perform under actual life or death pressure. Today's attack provided an opportunity to see your true potential. And, Emma asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. You exceed every parameter we use to evaluate candidates, Alex said. Your tactical analysis during the library fight was better than most graduates achieve after years of training. Your marksmanship with an unfamiliar weapon system was exceptional. Most importantly, you adapted to lethal combat without psychological breakdown. Queen Defender 9th. Clutch clicked rapidly. This unit observes. Small human demonstrates capabilities that suggest extensive prior training. No prior training, Alex corrected. That's what makes this significant. Everything you've seen Emma do today represents natural adaptation, enhanced by optimal conditions and proper equipment. Emma looked around at her squad mates, all of whom were staring at her with expressions she couldn't quite read. Respect, certainly, but also something that might have been awe. What happens now? Harmony asked, her crystalline form cycling through colors that Emma associated with anticipation. Alex activated her scanner again, showing academy-wide tactical displays. The coordinated resistance they had initiated was working. Drexy forces were being pushed back from positions they had considered secure. Automated defenses were operating at efficiency levels that suggested active coordination, rather than simple programming. Now we finish what we started, Alex said. There are still students trapped in the dormitory complex, and the Drexy have established a command center in the administrative building. If we can take that out, we can coordinate academy-wide systems to make continuing the attack too costly for them to maintain. Emma studied the displays, her mind automatically processing tactical options and probability matrices. She could see 3 different approaches to the administrative building, each with advantages and risks that shifted depending on timing and resource allocation. The direct approach won't work, Emma said, pointing to the main corridors. Too much open ground, too many defensive positions they've established. But the maintenance system extends under the administrative building. And if we can access the primary computing core, we can turn their own coordination systems against them, Alex finished. And there was definite approval in her voice. That's exactly the kind of analysis that separates exceptional tacticians from merely competent ones. Emma felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the library's climate control. For the first time since arriving at the academy, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. There's something else, Alex said, and her tone suggested Emma wasn't going to like what came next. Intelligence reports indicate this Drexy force isn't operating independently. They're the advance element of a larger fleet. If we don't stop them here, if we don't make the cost of attacking humans too high to justify, this becomes the first strike in a war that could consume half the galaxy. Emma felt the weight of that responsibility settle on her shoulders. It should have been overwhelming for a 14-year-old girl who 24 hours ago had been worried about fitting in with her squad mates. Instead, it felt like everything she had been preparing for her entire life. Then we stopped them, Emma said simply. Alex smiled, and Emma realized that for the first time since they had met, there was no loneliness in her expression. Welcome to the Apex Warrior program, Emma Chen, Alex said. Let's go save the galaxy. The administrative building's command center was a fortress of crystalline walls and energy barriers that hummed with enough power to level city blocks. Emma could see Drexy technicians working at control stations throughout the facility, their biomechanical interfaces allowing them to process data at speeds that would overwhelm most organic minds. 12 primary targets, Emma whispered, studying the tactical display Alex had generated from their position in the building's sub-basement. 4 guard positions, 6 technical stations, and 2 command nodes. If we take out the command nodes first, we can disrupt their coordination long enough to deal with the rest. Alex nodded approvingly. Standard tactical doctrine would suggest eliminating the guards first, to reduce immediate threats. Why focus on command infrastructure instead? Emma pointed to energy readings on the display. Because they're not just coordinating the ground assault, they're managing orbital communication with the main fleet. If we shut down their ability to report success or request reinforcement, we buy time for Academy defenses to fully activate. Crew leaned closer to study the readings, his massive frame casting shadows across the display. The small human sees patterns that are not obvious. How do we reach these command nodes without fighting through every defensive position? Emma smiled, feeling the same kind of excitement she got when solving complex puzzles under pressure. We don't fight through them. We go around them. She called up a three-dimensional map of the administrative building, highlighting structural weaknesses and environmental systems. The building's atmospheric processors are directly connected to the command center. If Harmony can resonate at the right frequencies, she can disrupt their air supply while we approach through the main ventilation system. That system was not designed for organic infiltration, Queen Defender Ninth Clutch observed, her multiple appendages already calculating dimensional requirements. It wasn't designed for normal organic infiltration, Emma corrected, but Nyx can phase through solid barriers. Zixtal's forearms give him enhanced climbing capabilities, and Seth's natural flexibility lets him navigate spaces that would stop most species. Alex was studying Emma with an expression that suggested she was continually recalculating her assessment of Emma's capabilities. And what about you? That route requires physical capabilities that exceed normal human parameters. Emma looked at the modified equipment Alex had given her, particularly the device that looked like a standard utility pack but hummed with technology that definitely wasn't standard Academy issue. You've been enhancing our capabilities since the first engagement, Emma said. Not just weapons, but personal systems that optimize strength, speed, and coordination. I've felt the difference in everything from my reflexes to my analytical processing speed. Temporary enhancement systems, Alex confirmed. Technology that allows normal Academy students to operate at levels approaching Apex Warrior standards for limited periods. Consider it a preview of what extended training could achieve permanently. Emma felt a thrill at the implications. How long do the enhancements last? For your metabolic type? Approximately 4 hours from initial activation. After that, you'll need extended recovery time to avoid biological damage. Emma checked her chronometer. They had been enhanced for almost 2 hours already, which meant they had a narrow window to complete their mission. Then we go now, Emma decided. Fast approach, simultaneous strikes on both command nodes, and extraction before the enhancements wear off. What followed was the most complex tactical operation Emma had ever been part of, and she found herself naturally taking the coordination role, while Alex focused on eliminating threats that required her specialized capabilities. Harmony's resonance attack worked perfectly, disrupting atmospheric systems throughout the command center, while creating sonic interference that masked their approach. Emma led crew and Queen Defender Ninth Clutch through the ventilation system, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to navigate spaces that should have been impossible for someone her size. Meanwhile, Nyx phased directly through the building's structure to approach the primary command node from an angle that Drexy hadn't bothered to defend. Seth and Zixtal took a parallel route that let them strike the secondary node. Simultaneously, Emma's first direct encounter with Drexy command personnel showed her just how different this was from fighting basic troopers. The commander she faced was faster, stronger, and more tactically aware than anything she had encountered before. Its biomechanical enhancements included reaction, speeds that let it track her movements even with her enhanced capabilities. But Emma had something the Drexy commander hadn't planned, for she could think faster than it could. Adapt. When it raised energy shields to block her weapon fire, she switched to kinetic projectiles. When it moved to flank her position, she was already repositioning to maintain range advantage. When it called for backup, she had already disrupted its communication systems using techniques Alex had taught her about electronic warfare. The fight lasted 47 seconds and ended with the Drexy commander unconscious on the floor of its own command center. Emma, Alex's voice came through their communication system with something that sounded like pride. Status report. Primary command node secured, Emma replied, already working at the control systems with interface techniques that felt completely natural, despite being more complex than anything she had learned in academy courses. Accessing orbital communication protocols now. What she found in the Drexy command systems exceeded her worst fears. Alex, Emma said, her voice tight with the implications of what she was seeing. This isn't just an advanced fleet. The Drexy have mobilized 3 full battle groups, over 400 ships. They're planning to hit every major academy facility simultaneously. The silence that followed was broken by Crew's rumbling voice. 400 ships. That is enough firepower to devastate entire star systems. Emma continued analyzing the data, her enhanced cognitive processing, allowing her to understand tactical implications that would have taken normal analysis teams hours to uncover. It's worse than numbers, Emma reported. They've been planning this for years. They have detailed intelligence on academy defenses, student capabilities, even individual psychological profiles for high-value targets. Including yours? Alex asked, though Emma suspected she already knew the answer. Especially mine, Emma confirmed. They've identified me as a critical threat to long-term Drexy expansion objectives. Apparently, my family history and test scores suggest I could become what they call a singular tactical asset. Emma felt cold despite the command center's climate control. She was 14 years old, and an entire military alliance considered her dangerous enough to justify a war. There's something else, Emma continued, accessing deeper levels of the Drexy database. They know about the Apex Warrior program. They know about Alex, and they've developed countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize enhanced human capabilities. On her display, Emma could see technical readouts for weapons and tactics that had been created specifically to kill people like Alex Morgan. The Drexy had studied every engagement involving Apex Warriors and developed responses that eliminated the advantages that made them so effective. Emma, Alex said, and there was something in her voice that made Emma look up from the control systems. Alex was standing in the doorway of the command center, and her expression suggested she had reached a conclusion that Emma wasn't going to like. The enhancement systems I gave you aren't temporary, Alex said quietly. They're permanent genetic modifications that activate under extreme stress conditions. You're not just testing for Apex Warrior suitability anymore. You've become one. Emma stared at her, trying to process the implications. What does that mean? It means, Alex said with a smile that carried both pride and sadness, that you're no longer the youngest recruit in the academy. You're the youngest Apex Warrior in the history of the program, and right now, you and I are the only thing standing between the Drexy fleet and the complete destruction of human defensive capabilities. Through the command center's viewports, Emma could see ships beginning to appear in the sky above Nexus Prime. Hundreds of them, blotting out the stars with their approach. The real battle was about to begin. Emma stood in the captured command center, watching hundreds of Drexy warships fill the sky above Nexus Prime, and felt something fundamental shift inside her consciousness. The fear that had defined her first day at the academy was gone, replaced by a cold clarity that let her see tactical possibilities instead of overwhelming threats. 437 ships, she reported, her enhanced analytical capabilities, processing fleet composition data faster than the Drexy systems could update, 12 dreadnoughts, 46 heavy cruisers, and the rest are assault transports loaded with ground forces. Alex was accessing Academy defense protocols through a terminal that definitely wasn't designed for student use. Standard Academy defensive doctrine recommends evacuation when facing overwhelming force. The orbital platforms can hold off maybe 50 ships. Against this fleet, they'll last approximately 14 minutes. Emma studied the tactical displays, her mind automatically running probability calculations that took into account everything from fuel consumption rates to psychological factors affecting enemy morale. Standard doctrine won't work, Emma agreed. But we're not operating under standard parameters anymore. She turned to her squadmates, who were watching her with expressions that suggested they were seeing someone completely different from the nervous 14-year-old who had arrived yesterday morning. Crew, you understand Corvin military engineering better than anyone here. What would it take to overload the Academy's main power core in a controlled fashion? The massive Corvin's eyes widened. Small human that would create an energy release equivalent to a small star-going nova. Everything in orbit would be destroyed, including the Academy and everyone on the planet, Harmony added, her crystalline form pulsing with colors Emma associated with alarm. Not if we channel the energy release through the Academy's experimental research systems, Emma countered, calling up technical specifications that she was pretty sure were classified beyond her clearance level. The Academy has been developing something called a reality distortion field generator for the past 15 years. It's designed to create localized, space-time anomalies for defensive purposes. Alex stopped what she was doing. and looked at Emma with an expression that suggested she was reevaluating everything. She thought she knew about human potential. Emma, that project is theoretical. It's never been tested at full power because the energy requirements would exceed the output of most star systems. It's never been tested because no one has ever been desperate enough to risk everything on an untested system, Emma corrected. But we have access to a Drexy fleet's worth of fusion reactors that we can tap into. Remotely using their own command systems, she began working at the control interfaces with speed and precision that amazed even her. Her enhanced cognitive processing was allowing her to understand alien technology at an intuitive level, as if the principles behind Drexy engineering were merely another language she could learn in real time. If we can synchronize the Academy's experimental systems with the enemy fleet's power generation, Emma continued, we can create a reality distortion that removes the entire Drexy force from normal space-time without destroying the planet. Where would they go? Seth asked, his amber eyes reflecting the tactical displays with what Emma was learning to recognize as fascination. Somewhere else, Emma replied honestly. The mathematics suggest a parallel dimensional space where they can exist without threatening anyone in our reality. They wouldn't be destroyed, just relocated. Nix's shadowy form rippled with what Emma interpreted as approval. Elegant solution. Remove the threat without becoming monsters ourselves. It's also completely insane, Alex pointed out. The probability of success is minimal, and failure would result in the complete destruction of this entire star system. Emma looked at her, and for the first time since they had met, she felt like they were equals rather than teacher and student. What's the probability of survival if we try conventional defensive measures against a fleet of that size? Alex was quiet for a moment, running her own calculations. Effectively 0. Then insane becomes our best option, Emma concluded. Queen Defender 9th Clutch, I need you to coordinate with the Academy's automated systems. Your computational abilities can manage the synchronization requirements that would overwhelm most organic minds. The insectoid being clicked rapidly. This unit accepts assignment. Probability calculations suggest alternative approaches have lower success rates. Emma felt time pressure weighing on every decision. The Drexy fleet was moving into attack formation, and orbital bombardment would begin within minutes. Whatever they were going to do had to happen now. Everyone clear on the plan? Emma asked, though calling it a plan was generous. They were essentially going to hijack both Academy experimental systems and enemy fleet power generation to create a localized miracle. Clear, Alex said, and there was something in her voice that suggested pride mixed with concern. But Emma, you understand that if this works, you'll have solved a tactical problem that the greatest military minds in the galaxy have been struggling with for decades. The implications of what you're attempting go beyond this single engagement. Emma paused in her system access to look at Alex directly. What do you mean? I mean that if a 14-year-old human can conceive and execute tactical solutions at this level, every species in the galaxy is going to have to recalculate their assumptions about human potential. The Drexy attack on the Academy might end up being the event that establishes humans as the galaxy's premier strategic threat. Emma considered this while her hands continued working at the control systems. Is that necessarily bad? Not bad, Alex replied, but different. Very different from the galaxy we grew up in. The first phase of Emma's plan activated perfectly. Academy experimental systems that had been dormant for years suddenly came online. Their energy patterns synchronizing with signals Queen Defender 9th Clutch was transmitting directly to Drexy fleet reactors. Emma could feel the mathematics of reality beginning to shift around them, space-time itself becoming malleable under the influence of forces that exceeded anything previously achieved by organic intelligence. Phase 2, Emma announced, her voice steady despite the fact that she was essentially rewriting the laws of physics through willpower and superior tactical analysis. Harmony's crystalline form began resonating at frequencies that interfaced directly with the Academy's reality distortion systems. Crew applied his engineering knowledge to maintain power distribution that should have required an entire team of specialists. Seth used his natural sensory capabilities to monitor dimensional stability, while Zixtal's forearms let him manage multiple interface points. Simultaneously, Nix phased between dimensions to provide real-time feedback on the effects their modifications were having on local spacetime, and Alex watched Emma orchestrate the entire operation, with the kind of tactical awareness that redefined what anyone thought was possible for a human her age. Fleet targeting solutions locked, Emma reported. Reality distortion field at 60% power and climbing. Dimensional anchor point stable. Through the command center's viewports, they could see the Drexy fleet beginning to react to energy readings that exceeded anything in their tactical databases. Ships that had been moving into bombardment position were suddenly trying to retreat from effects they couldn't understand too late. Field activation in 3, 2, 1. The reality distortion. Field engaged with a sound like the universe, itself taking a deep breath. Emma watched through external sensors as 437 enemy ships simply ceased to exist in normal space. No explosions, no debris. They were just suddenly somewhere else entirely. The silence that followed was broken by Queen Defender 9th clutches clicking. This unit reports, Academy orbital defenses detect no remaining hostile vessels in local space. Emma slumped in the command chair, suddenly feeling the weight of exhaustion as her enhanced capabilities began cycling down from crisis levels. Around her, her squad mates were staring at tactical displays that showed empty space where minutes before, an entire enemy fleet had been preparing to destroy everything they cared about. Emma, Alex said quietly, do you understand what you just did? Emma looked at her, then at her squad mates, then at the display showing Academy students emerging from shelters to find their world saved by a tactical solution that shouldn't have been possible. I protected my friends, Emma said simply. Everything else is just details. Alex smiled, and Emma realized that for the first time since they had met, there was no loneliness in her expression at all. Welcome to the Apex Warrior program, Alex said. Though I think we're going to have to redesign the entire curriculum now. Through the command center's communication systems, Emma could hear Commander Vex's voice announcing that the academy was secure, the threat had been neutralized, and classes would resume the following day. Emma Chen, age 14, youngest recruit in academy history, looked forward to finding out what tomorrow would bring. She suspected it was going to be interesting.